reinstalling a lighted countertop. This is the first time I've done this project, so we'll see how it goes. Countertop stone that I'm using is a product called Lumix, and this stone is actually translucent, so you can see that the light will shine through it, and the idea is to place a light underneath so that the beauty of the natural stone will come through. So the way we're going to do that is we're using an Underlit panel from a company called Tyler Co. Inc. in California. And this is actually an LED panel. It has an embedded LED strip along the edge. It's powered by DC, so you can see the wires here. When you turn it on, you get a nice, even lit surface. And you're going to place these onto the substrate, the plywood substrate, and then place the stone on top. We'll take a closer look at one of these panels. I've done a temporary wiring job here so we can see how it lights up, so I'll turn this on. This material is actually a light guide. The light is traveling through and then reflecting off the back edge. And then when I place the stone on top, you can get an idea what that's going to look like. For my project, we're doing this kitchen island. The island itself is 4 feet wide by 5 feet long, which makes it pretty simple for calculating the number of tiles because each tile is 1 square foot. So I bought 20 tiles. Big challenge in this project is going to be the wiring itself and the concealing of the wires. You definitely want to consult the manufacturer's documentation and get the specifications. So I did that, and I see that these panels each draw 0.16 amps per panel. They run on 12 volts DC, so the manufacturer supplies they supplied me with one power supply, which is good for up to 20 some panels. So this is a 5 amp power supply, and then we're going to wire all the panels in parallel to the output DC circuit. And then we need to conceal the wires. So the way that's done is we're going to route a channel throughout the plywood substrate. And the manufacturer also has a recommended way of making the layout. So you want all of the LEDs in the panels to be facing the same direction. And we're going to route our wiring path in sort of an S pattern. One other consideration is the fact that the wires come out of the panel coming straight down. So the only way we can accommodate that in the plywood is to drill a small partial hole. We're going to use a paddle bit so that the wire has room to go down into the plywood before it turns into the channel. And also, something else to note, all the wiring is going to be done. I'm using 18 gauge wire, and then these little push pin 3 wire butt connectors. So you press you strip each wire, you press it into the connector, and then with pliers you squeeze the red dot, and that makes a good connection. I laid out some of the tiles so that it will help me get started with making the lines. By the way, these panels are not really blue, they just come with a blue protective film which we're going to peel off at the end. So in my case, the island is exactly 4 feet wide, which is nice because I have the tiles butted up against each other very closely, no gap. Lengthwise, we ended up just a hair past 5 feet, so what I'm going to do is leave a small gap. It's about 1/8 of an inch. I don't think that's really recommended. Hopefully that won't cause any noticeable lines in the final lighted slab, but we'll find out. So we'll go ahead and start marking. I'm going to use this level just as a straight edge. Okay, I've drawn my pattern for the wiring. So the basic idea is underneath the counter here and behind this cabinet I do have AC power, so I'm going to put the transformer under the backing of this cabinet so it won't be seen, and then we're going to bring the wires up right around here, and these are the connecting points for each one of the tiles. So the wire pattern goes in this square S type pattern. I'm going to do the routing outside because I don't want to make a big mess here in the kitchen, so I'm going to take off this piece of plywood and try routing. Okay, we're outside now and I've set up my work area for doing the routing. We're going to go ahead and cut the channel for the wires. I've got a basic router here and I'm using a 1/4 inch bit. This is actually a straight bit. And I set the depth to 1/8 of an inch, which I think should be enough for those wires. Okay, the routing portion is finished. So next step is going to be to drill some partial holes to accommodate the connectors. It's going to be best to use a 1-inch bit, which I have here, and I have to drill to a depth of about 1/4 of an inch because these connectors are pretty thick. The wire will go along the channel, and then these connectors are going to sit down inside the 1-inch hole. Probably have to drill 2 of them side by side in order to accommodate both connectors. Of course, they need to be below the surface of the plywood. I've got the plywood screwed in now, so it's time to start wiring. I've drilled a small hole here and started the wire leads coming out. I have not permanently installed the transformer yet. I've got it still just dangling down here, and I've hooked up the power supply with a couple of wire cap connectors, red to red, black to black. This circuit is to be wired in parallel. So what that means is you're going to have 2 conductors traveling the entire length of the channel, and at each tile we're going to tap off the red and the black to provide power to that one tile. So the way that works is, again, we're going to use these little pushing connectors. The connector has 3 slots for 3 wires. One is for the tile itself, one is for the incoming voltage, and one is for the wire that's going to go out to the next tile. One thing to keep in mind about this project is once we put the stone slab on top of this, there's really no way to get to it. So we want to make sure every connection is very reliable. We need to avoid any short circuits. We're going to secure every wire in place, and we're going to keep every panel lit all the way through this process so we're sure that everything is working. This is going to be tricky because there's not a whole lot of room to work here, but we're going to give it a shot. So I've got the 2 wires here from the first tile, and then these are the wires coming in from the power supply, and then these will be the wires that go out to the next power supply. So first thing we're going to do is strip off about a little less than 1/2 inch from each of the wires using a wire stripper. Next we're going to connect the connector carefully. Red to red, black to black. Let's make sure I got the length right. It looks good. You want it to be able to go in so that the conductor goes all the way to the end, but the insulation is behind the plastic. So let's start off with the reds. We'll use the pliers to give this a good squeeze. Kind of clicks when it goes in. I'm going to squeeze it a little bit more for good measure. Then we're going to do a pull test. Make sure each wire is in secure. That's good. We'll do the black ones now. Okay. Before we go any further, we just want to make sure that the light works, make sure the tile works, make sure the connectors are good, and we're going to do this every step of the way. So I'll turn on my temporary switch here, and it works. We're good to go. So we're going to glue this one down and move on to the next. The manufacturer recommends Dynaflex 230 clear sealant for attaching the countertop, the stone, to the top of the tile. So this is not really an adhesive, it's more of a caulk product. They don't really make any recommendations as to what to use to attach the tile to the substrate. But I'm going to go ahead and use the same product. My thinking is that if I ever did need to remove the slab and remove a tile to replace it, it would be easier to get it off if I'm using something like a sealant caulk product as opposed to a strong adhesive. Hopefully I'll never have to do that, but I'm going to use this sealant pretty sparingly so that there's not a whole lot of glue involved. And then for the wires themselves, we're going to use a glue gun to just basically tack these wires and the connectors down into the grooves and the holes. So I have my glue gun here ready to go. We'll go ahead and attach this first tile in place. I'm just using a little bit of this sealant, not too much. Line up the edges here. Use my drill to keep that weight down while we move on to the next. But before we do that, we need to tack these connectors down. I ended up having to widen and deepen these holes quite a bit to accommodate these connectors and the excess wire, but it's in there pretty good now. It's below the flush level of the plywood, which is what we want. My light tile is still working, so we're going to move on to the next one. I'm going to do the next one a little bit differently and try to have a little bit less wire. The second set of connectors went a lot better. So from my experience on the last time, I learned to place the connector holes right at the corner and make the lead coming off the tile as short as possible. And the other thing is to make all of the leads the same length. And that way I don't really ever need to have more than 2 wires in this channel. And I've connected my second tile, so we'll go ahead and turn it on and make sure we still have lights. And we do. Moving right along here, I have 6 tiles installed so far. No major problems. I've learned to make these connections as tight as possible, and everything is going pretty smoothly. I'm using weights of various types to hold down the tiles. Well, I finished with all 20 tiles. Overall, the project went really well. The only thing I would say in hindsight is that what I would do for the holes where the connectors go, I would definitely use the router next time. Just you're able to get cleaner holes, uniform depth. The next step is to peel off the blue film. It's off on one of these tiles, and we're going to have our stone fabricator come over and place the Lumix slab on top of the island. We're going to use the same adhesive, which is that Dynaflex 230. I want to keep the tiles lit while we're putting on the slab.
Go. Hold on. Okay, is it there? Wait. No. Over there, Carlos. Wait. Your fingers. Ahí está. No. No le hagas. There you go.
Wow. Looks fantastic. I still need to install the permanent switch, but here's the final product. It really looks great. The slab lights work fantastic, and everybody is very happy here.